All right, welcome. Let's go over trade ideas. In case you don't know what's going on in a market, it's moving straight up in a straight line, basically, um, which is just pretty much absolutely and totally insane. Um, so SPY made yet again new all-time highs. I mean, ideally, we would love to see some type of pullback on SPY, maybe a gap fill right here, and then continuation. That would make this much nicer and easier to trade, in my opinion. Um, Otherwise, you're just taking longs, hoping that you're not at the top, basically, um, which is just scary. Um, So let's take a look at the hourly chart on SPY and break it down a little more. All right. I mean, one thing you can absolutely say is the trend is very clean. I mean, the chart is very clean. It just feels, and you got to be careful with how going with, how things feel when it comes to trading, but it feels overextended in my opinion. So, um, just makes it harder for me to trade these parabolic charts. But if I was to trade SPY, how would I trade it? Well, the ideal thing would be a pullback to this 735. Even better if it just looked below this level real quick, came back up, gave a higher low back above, and then I would target the equal all-time high. Um, Also, it could just come back down, give it a little double bottom right here, target the equal high. The third option is it breaks right above 638.08, gives a higher low, and continues with the trend, just like it has continued to do day after day after day after day. Um, the alternate path that I could see with SPY, and I would not trade this just because of how bullish it is, a lower high below 735 opens up the door for 730.40. That would be the first target. Below that, another lower high would open up the door to fill this gap up down here. If and when this gap filled, I probably, if it did pull back and give a lower high below 730.40, I would probably be willing to take that lower high. And that's for a couple reasons. One, we would have a head and shoulders pattern right there if that were to happen. And two, pulling back that far gives me more certainty that it's not just doing a little pullback to continue higher immediately, anyways, right? Plus, we have this gap below to fill. So I probably would be willing to take the lower high right here in a scalp type situation to try and target filling this gap close coming down to 725. If and when it gets down to 725, well, then I am looking for, at that point, my base case would be a daily higher low right here, some type of inverted head and shoulder, something like that, to continue the uptrend, right? So that is how I would be thinking about trading SPY. And we will move on to the next one. As soon as I erase all this, um, we'll go on over to QQQ, which is, pretty similar. QQQ is even a little bit more parabolic, just insane. but not quite as insane as MU, AMD, and Intel, right? Those charts are just out of control. So I would be totally scared to take this trade, but it's probably how it's going to work out. Higher low above 711.30 to continue up. That's the most parabolic route, and that's the route it seems like it wants to take right now. Better trade, pull back down, do that look below and fail, or the double bottom right here. The only way I'd be willing to do puts is a lower high below 692.90, target the gap fill, and then it's the same thing as we saw on SPY, right? Inverted head and shoulders, double bottom, something like that, to continue back up on the uptrend. Um, the and there is one other option, and I would keep this open with SPY as well, and that would be, or let me erase all this. That would be a day or two of consolidation right here would make me much more comfortable with being willing to take the higher low over the all-time high for a continuation. If that happens, I am far more comfortable taking that trade. It really makes it a much better trade. But just going straight over off of a parabolic thin top like this, because I've been trading long enough to know that 9 times out of 10, when we get straight up massive movement like this is, huge gaps, just straight up movement, is that when it does come crashing, when it does capitulate, it just goes boom. And if you're in that thing, good luck. You're in trouble. So just got to be careful. We saw it with Avis stock, which I'm not even comparing Avis and QQQ. It's not even a reasonable thing to do. But we've seen it with many things. We saw it with gold. We saw it with silver. We've seen it with many things over the years, right? So you just gotta watch out. But this is parabolic. If you go look at like the .com bubble charts, the charts look very similar right now to like a year before a year to year and a half before the .com blow up, right? It looks pretty similar to the charts right now. But anyway, let's continue on. IWM. This one has not been trading as parabolic, although it is at new all-time highs. Um, as you can see here, like look how it made this parabolic move, several days of consolidation, then the higher low above. Much easier to take that trade than just straight up continuation, right? That's just it's not if you're just taking those straight up continuation trades, you are winning right now. But I don't see how trading like that keeps you successful for long periods of time. It just gives you bouts of success and mostly failure, I would think. So I just can't do it. Um, just can't. All right. So as far as IWM, as far as how I'm looking at trading the Russell right now, um, we're just flagging out near the all-time highs. Base case is higher low above 284.95, targets the equal all-time high. Be careful of look above and fail, which would ideally be do something like that. You always got to watch out for that. Alternate lower high below 281.51 brings us back down to the previous all-time high, which is a great place for a higher low on a daily chart. So if and when that happened, looking for a double bottom, inverted head and shoulders, something like that, to continue back up to equal all-time highs. Also, we always want to watch out especially in a big bull market like this. If it breaks down below this 281.50 level and then comes back above it, gives us a higher low above, then that could be our setup back to the all-time highs. So that is how I'm thinking about the Russell right now. I would say it has some trades that I would consider easier to take than QQQ and SPY right now. If you must trade index as futures or whatever. DIA, on the other hand, has even better trade. Let's take a look at the daily chart. V-shaped recovery. Have not quite finished the V, but we are very close. Let's go to the hourly chart. DIA just doesn't trend as nicely, but every once in a while you'll get a decent setup. And what I like right now is lower high to fill this gap. After the gap fill, looking for something like that, inverted head and shoulders to target back up towards 550. Also, I am more than willing to consider an alternate path here. If I can just scroll the screen down, ignore that big arrow that moved with the screen. We get rid of it. So also definitely willing to just consider any higher low above 550 to target the all-time high. I think this is one of the ones I'm going to be watching closer next week. Because I like out of the four indexes, I like that these trades the best on DIA. Let's move on to, if I can find my list. Please hold while I find my list. All right. I'm gonna go to VT, which is Vanguard. Just really like some trades right here. So on VT, we had the V-shaped recovery, a little bull flag above the all-time high, then a breakout above that, gapped up, attempted to close on that gap yesterday, but failed. Today, we consolidated near the top end of that big red candle, and that sets us up for what's called a 3-bar play or a bull bar play. And I like it. So we'll move on down to the hourly. And this is how I would want to see this trade work out if it works out. Basically, I am just looking for a higher low above 155.25 to scalp a long trade up here into new all-time highs. Ideally, for that bull bar play, we do want to hold this level. Although, if we do some stuff like this, whatever, I would still take this trade right here. That's fine. Alternatively, if we come down, get a little lower high and fill this gap, then set up to go long, I'm also okay with that. There's lots of good trades to take on this chart. I am also okay with just a break into the gap that fails to close it, higher low back above, right? So there's all kinds of ways to trade this chart. I like all those ways. I think they're all fantastic trade setups, which makes this chart one of the ones that I'm going to be watching closest come Monday and maybe Tuesday. I don't know. Let's move on to TSM. And let's look at the daily. All right. We had the recovery back to all-time highs. Now we have the higher low above. It's not moving super clean, but the thing I do like is that we had this move up. Now we're kind of flagging. We have the consolidation that sets us up with a flat top high. So all signs point to the ability to create a new all-time high on this chart, and I would be willing to take that trade. Any higher lows above the current all-time high. Firstly, we'll target 423.25 because that is the overnight all-time high, and then continuation. I think TSM is a great company. It's obviously underperforming other parts of the market right now, but I think this is a fair setup coming into next week. Next, I like Coinbase. This is possibly, if it ends up setting up, going to be the biggest watch. Okay. 210.50 is a very clear and obvious level that if we can break above and get some price acceptance above, sets us up for a potential major move. Okay. This is how this looks like a potential bottom to me. It also kind of looks like a bear pennant and a bear flag, so we got to stay open to that possibility. You can see that if I were, let me just use my other line. If I were to draw a line right there, and then we consider that pull, then yes, this is technically a bear pennant, but it could also be and looks like a bottom forming. And it's held this level for quite some time. This would be we've come back for it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. This would be like our seventh. So if we can break above that level and then pull back to the level and create a higher low, I absolutely am considering taking some swing longs, targeting, who knows, maybe that sets up for a new all-time high. I don't know. I don't want to say that because that's like really, really far away. But if Bitcoin can stay strong and Bitcoin makes some moves over the weekend or something good happens with Bitcoin, that helps this trade work out. I'm just really, really super interested in this trade. I think it's an A-level trade if it plays out. I hope I am paying attention if and when this happens so I can get involved. Let's move on to Datadog. What a beast this thing was the last couple days. Massive, just massive gap up to equal all-time highs. We now have the gap up and then a day, and then the gap up day, and then an additional day that was basically almost like an inside bar. So we have at least 1 day of what I'll call consolidation after it, and then we have the all-time high above. So the more days we get wrapped up in this range, the better this trade becomes. Um, so the more we can just hang out here, the better it gets, all the better. But I am looking for a higher low above the all-time high to create new all-time highs. I think that's a great trade. Also, if it comes back down, jumps into this gap, gives a higher low back above, I think that sets up for a great, even better trade to do this, right? And much more area to trade if it does it that way. Also, what if it gives us a lower high below and just does a partial gap fill, then we come back up, you know? Those are the ways I am looking at getting involved in Datadog. I think there's some potential huge moves coming forward on this chart. Just gotta pay attention and look for these things to form as they happen with that align with these ideas. Um, I think that those are my favorite trades. Those are the ones I have marked down as like my can't miss trades, right? Um, Another one I really liked, potentially liked. I like this one. If something bad happens with Iran over the weekend or Iran tensions increase, this is the chart I'm running to. USO. Okay. Got a nice big gap above that if that happens, maybe we can fill this gap. Great trade to run to if tensions increase. Something to think about. Um, let's take a look at, oh, I don't know, MU. This chart is, I don't even know what to say about it. It's like it's catching up to SanDisk, right? SanDisk went for what, 4,000%. Now it's MU's turn. Um, I do think that's probably what's going on. I would love it if we could get some kind of pullback on this chart. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I don't know that it is, but if we could pull back to even 531.85, I would love that to get involved, right? Um, if you have huge kahunas, right? Just huge, then you can just catch higher lows above yesterday high day and it's worked day after day after day after day after day. You could do that. Um, seems dangerous, but you know, let's go to SMDK. I mean, how far has that gone? And MU is like way behind that chart, I think, you know. And this one's just been going for since December, only since December. But the beautiful thing on SanDisk, right? It went, then gave us this huge flag, and then we've had the break of the flag and go. And then we had another little flag here and go. So we've already had that happen a few times. Let's look at MU. MU, I guess we've had one flag and then a tiny flag, right? I don't know, dude. I feel like these charts are hard to get involved in. Um, at this level, I I need at least consolidation days. I need something like this to trade off of. Just buying at these highs is too much for me. I can't do it. AMD looks the same. Intel the same. At least AMD though, we got this huge gap that we can do something with. So if and when we get an interaction with this gap, that would be, in my opinion, a great spot to get involved with this chart. So I am looking for my arrow or my line that I'm drawing with because I lost it. Where is it? Ah, here it is. All right. So like, what if it came down, pop back up? Cool. Great trade. Came down, partial gap fill, anything like this. Great trade, you know? But just look at the massive move today on just Datadog, on AMD, on Intel. Like to come in Monday and just be like, I'm gonna buy a higher low over this. It's insane to me. It's probably gonna work because of the way the market is right now. We're in a lockout rally, and that's how lockout rallies work. But, I don't know. That's not a very risk averse trade. So I would need some type of interaction with this gap or, you know, several days or even weeks of a flag build out. That'd be awesome. Anything like that. That's what I'd need. Uh, otherwise, it's a little difficult. I just look to other charts that I can more confidently trade, you know. I do like the Google chart. It's parabolic too, but at least we have 2 days of consolidation here, semi-consolidation. flip it on down to the hourly. How would I trade this? So ideally, how I would trade this is, let's say it opens at the high, little pullback to this $400.15, catch it long. Higher low over yesterday, high a day also works. There is this overnight all-time high level at 403.60, but just overall looking for continuations to new all-time highs. Um, but what if the market just opens massively gapped up on Monday? If that happens, I'm going to start thinking, I wonder if we're having a temporary capitulation period, and then, comes back down and pulls back, everything pulls back. That's probably what the start of any pullback is going to be, is some massive gas gap up with huge volume. Most likely, that's how it'll happen. That's how it usually happens. Otherwise, Google could do a lower high right here and pull back to here. I wouldn't trade that short. The only short I would consider is way down here below 380.7. And that is a spot where I would consider some puts, okay? Plus, you would have a big head and shoulders if that happened. But I don't think that's the base case at all. But if and when it does happen, cool. Let's take a look over at Apple. I gotta go back out to the daily. Swing over here. We've just barely broken new all-time highs after earnings, right? It's not moving upward super fast, but it does have new all-time highs. The trend is fairly clean. We are moving up, then pulling back, then moving up. So, I mean, it's clean, not bad. I would like more consolidation right here, right at the previous all-time high, to set up a cleaner breakout uptrend, something like this would be ideal. That would be much cleaner, much safer, better trade with easier to manage risk. However, I think it is totally okay in this market, and considering that Apple isn't super extended, to just consider higher lows above the yesterday high day for a new all-time high, or even a little look below here and fail. Cool. I'm good with all that. Uh, Oracle. Let's see what's going on with Oracle. A little hourly bull flag right there. Let's take a look at the daily. All right. Nowhere near all-time highs on Oracle, and I don't know why it went so far left right there. We do have this little bottom base formed right here, and now we have a higher low above that, and we also have a gap above us, and we also have thin structure over here. So that is what piques my interest in this chart. Um, Also looks like a little bull flag on hourly right here. So what I would like to see, either a little break below here or just a higher low above 197. And I would target not to go inside the gap, but just to touch it, just to touch the line or close to. Do have the 200 SMA to contend with that might be a little closer at that point as well. So I wouldn't think that the break right here just runs up and fills that gap, but I would think it probably touches it, pulls back, then we get some more things happen before it would come back and then fill the gap. That's longer term thinking, though. I'm not thinking about that gap fill just yet. Um, Take a look at Meta. It's kind of interesting, sort of. On Meta, it's just in a bounce range with two clear levels above and below, two clear gaps above and below. You can see that on Thursday, this is Thursday right here, it did attempt to partially close the gap. It did fail. So I caught a short scalp on it today, did pretty much okay on that trade. I mean, I profited, so I guess I did okay. Um, what I'm looking for, lower high below 610 cents, target top of the gap, maybe into the gap. We'll see when we get there. The alternative here is, let me find the eraser. The alternative is temps low, comes back up, look below and fail. To do the bounce range thing and then maybe try and fill more gap up here again. But basically, we're just waiting to see what happens above or below this bounce range on Meta to get involved. Um, should we take a look at ARM? Haley. All right. I just can't help but see this potential pattern on ARM, right? Shoulder, head, shoulder, and it kind of goes like that. So do we get something like that? Then pull back down to this very key 183.15 level, maybe. Let's take a look at the hourly chart, see how that might play out if it did. All right. So the way I would think that this played out, if it did play out, lower high below the yesterday low a day, comes down, targets this level, which is 197, clear defined level right there. Also got this 20 SMA right there, so I probably don't want to target any lower than that. But once that happens, then we have this very clear reversal pattern right here. Call it head and shoulders, call it whatever you want. Then a lower high below this level should bring up 183.15. And if we go back to the daily chart and we see why I think 183.15 is such a key level, let's take a look. Why is 183.15 such a key level? Well, let's go back. This is a multi-year top right here that we just broke out on top of. Now we're in the process of potentially retesting that level, or maybe this was the retest here. I'm not sure at this point. But I could see if we get a lower high below here, we could come down, retest this level. That is a level where I would think that if this thing is going to continue and is going to be parabolic like other things, then that is a level where I would think that buyers really step back in and this thing gets rocking up to the upside off of a major level like that. So that is what makes ARM super interesting. It is also possible that this is the higher low above. And it could get rocking from here, but it's not really trading like it is at this point. Do got this potential double top. I guess the only thing you could do is look for higher lows above the all-time high. I don't really have a clean way to trade it otherwise if this is the higher low. Let me look at City, see if this is worth anything. I don't know. I'm just going to skip this. I think that's all I got for now. Voice getting tired. Please like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, whatever, argue with me, do something. Have a good day. I'm out.